This is Idaho's agency disclosure brochure. It outlines the meaning of agency, the rights of a customer versus the rights of a client, how one becomes a customer or a client, and how brokerages handle representation. It's 2 pages long, and the signing of this is just a receipt that it's been acknowledged, that you have received and read and hopefully understand. Agency is a term used in Idaho law that describes the relationships between a licensee and some parties to a real estate transaction. And by Idaho law, a real estate brokerage and a licensee owes 4 specific duties to all customers, and they are outlined here. By entering a representation agreement, you become a client. And as a client, there are several more specific duties owed by a brokerage and a licensee. And then the second page to this agency disclosure brochure talks about representation. Single agency. If a person is buying a house, the house that they will buy cannot be represented by the same brokerage. And in the scenario of someone selling a home under single agency, the buyer of that home cannot be represented by the same brokerage. That's what single agency means. In limited dual agency, a brokerage and sometimes an agent can represent both the seller of a home and the buyer. So in limited dual agency, oftentimes, and this is probably the most common scenario, you'll have a brokerage acting in limited dual agency with assigned agents, which means the buyer and the seller each have their own agents working for them in a complete client agent relationship. In limited dual agency without assigned agents, that would be the scenario where a brokerage and more specifically one agent from that brokerage represents both a buyer and a seller. And in that case, there are special considerations that are outlined here that need to be taken into account. So that's limited dual agency without assigned agents. Again, signing this at the bottom just means that you acknowledge that you've received it and you are not obligating yourself to anything when you sign this document. I hope that helps explain this, and I look forward to speaking to you in person to go over it in more depth.